welcome to Framework and our return to the Bioware Omnibus. I am Al Schwartz. With me, as always, is John Bernard.
Hey, it's John. Trudge. We're talking about Dragon Age Inquisition today.
Yes, we are talking about... we did 2 episodes and got, what would you say, 20% into this game? Like, its story?
Yeah.
In our discussion.
The goal today is to cover pretty much the rest of it. That's the idea, anyway.
Well,
this isn't going to be the last episode on Inquisition, but I want to cover most of the story here, man. There isn't that much.
No, that's the thing. I now are going to cover, I don't know, 50 hours of gameplay in this episode probably, but in terms of story, there's not any more than there was in the prior, 4 hours of gameplay that we covered in the last episode.
Yeah.
I don't want to exaggerate it and say, the wheels completely come off the BioWare thing, and it just sort of, stops being a story-driven BioWare game and becomes an open-world Elder Scrolls game, entirely somewhere in the middle of this one.
Yeah, it's frustrating because, revisiting it now, I was struck early on. I was just there's actually way more going on here than I remembered. There's a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of interesting ideas. There's factions. They interact differently based on what I do. There's cool BioWare things here, and I'm really actually enjoying myself quite a bit. And now I'm just end this. Let's get through this. Come on. Oh my God. It's the longest game ever. So, that all happened within the course of this game. And it is without question the longest we've played for the Omnibus here. And that's all the BioWare games. So,
yeah.
What can you say? It's this is the biggest, fattest, longest, wettest one.
I am entirely in the same boat. I mean, in the first episode of this, I think we were both on the same page of wow, this is better than I remembered, and it's really got its hooks into me, and blah, blah, blah. And then it seems like around the same part, we both just ran out of steam and oh my God, how many of these giant maps do I have to clear? And, of course, the word have to there is in air quotes, but am I just supposed to leave 35, unresolved quest markers in my log and on my mini map? That's asking a lot of me. That's asking even more of me than spending 15 hours just climbing around the Emprise de Lyon to try and get rid of all those things.
Yeah, it's contrary to how we play these games, and I believe how most people who are into BioWare as a studio play these games. Everyone I know that is into these They want to do all the things. They want to explore all the options, get all the content, all the story missions, all the extra side missions, all the little curly cues and things that kind of enhance the world that you can find. That's of interest to all of us who are into these games. And this game it's kind of the only one that outright punishes you for that instinct, I would say.
I mean,
this is a slog.
Open world games are so much more popular than story-driven RPGs.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something to that, commercially, if not, whatever, narratively or gameplay-wise. But I don't know. I guess part of the skill for playing one of these games, it seems like with, it's the same thing with Skyrim, although I haven't really played that. It's definitely the same thing with a latter-day GTA or Red Dead Redemption. But part of the skill to get the most enjoyment out of it is you need to learn for yourself all the things you don't need to do in it. What I can skip and still get the full experience of the game, basically. Again, I'm probably the weird one here because for most gamers, it seems like they're all about this. But for me, it seems like a weird ask to enjoy this game the most. I need to figure out how to not play chunks of it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally the gameplay loop is fun and appealing, and that's what brings you back to it. And it is for a while in this game. The first half of this game, I was having fun, but at some point, it just stops being fun. It becomes tasks and chores and something that you're kind of doing out of obligation. And there's a lot of open world games that have this problem. The Ubisoft is just sort of infamous for just a massive bloat of quest markers on a map. that will take you forever, and it's just the same activities over and over and over again. At least in something like Far Cry, I don't care about the lore of Far Cry that much. I'm the point of it is to go and take out a base. Like I'm going to use stealth, or I'm going to unleash the animals and they'll attack, and in the chaos I'll come in and get my objective. Like there is gameplay based reasons to do the repetitive thing over and over, and that is the fun of Far Cry to the extent it is fun. Usually those games you get tired of as well, but you can also just kind of stop them and come back to them a year later and you're just fine. You don't care about the plot or whatever. It's a bad fit for Bioware, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you're using Far Cry as a contrast there, but I spent a lot of time just clearing out enemy forts with, that don't really have like a named antagonist inside of them or a storyline. I mean, there's a codex entry that'll tell you the backstory of that fort, and you can raise an Inquisition flag there and then have it be sort of a base camp for you. So it's not like completely nothing, the way that clearing a Faydrift is completely nothing when it's done.
Right, yeah. I think but it has both.
Yeah, and it still has that procedurally generated feel of it's just, I don't know. When you're playing through a Double Dragon video game, it's just like the color of the gang you're fighting, like the palette swaps a little bit, but their moves are the same, and there's not anything special about that boss. It's just another big guy with extra health.
Yeah, I mean, this is arcade machine game design. Where you're just like, what's going to get them to put more quarters in, kind of thing. It's an odd thing that became very popular. I don't know. I guess like loot-based kind of multiplayer games are kind of based around this too. Something like a Destiny or anything where the more time you put in, or money you put in enhances your experience in some way. That's not true here. This though, not really.
It's so strange how that the arcade quarter sucking thing was the cornerstone of video game design starting out, and that influenced how like punishingly difficult Nintendo Entertainment Systems games could be, even when you had removed that element. You didn't need the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game to be as hard as it was at home, because it wasn't getting any extra quarters out of you by killing you over and over again. And then now in a more modern era, we've sort of moved past that entirely and then circled back to it with the loot box type of game, like you're talking about. Now it is sort of trying to keep you online longer.
Yeah, there's a larger idea there.
I mean, what is putting a quarter into an arcade except a microtransaction?
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of been, games have always been as a service to some degree. I suppose that's true. I mean, the brief window of time when arcades died and we only had home consoles before we kind of did multiplayer massive things online, that was like the only window, the only quiet window when that wasn't the case. And that's kind of right around Mass Effect, really.
Well, that's the window where Bioware became a thing. And that's
exactly.
I guess Bioware had to arise in that interregnum between video game being based in arcades and video games being based online. That's
amazing. Wow.
There was this little patch where you could make video games became a more narrative based single player experience.
There's still a hunger for that. There's still the desire for that to be true.
There is on the supply, on the demand side. The supply side, they're trying to push to tamp down that demand and push us all into more profitable streams of revenue.
Well, Baldur's Gate 3 will never be the most profitable game that is produced, but it is quite profitable because people wanted this, I would say. They did, and still do. And I think that an old school BioWare game could do quite well in the current market, just because it would be unique. But yeah, again, I mean, they're owned by EA, so there's not an enormous profit margin for that. Especially when they've been bombing out with stuff like Andromeda recently. So I don't know where that leaves us, but let's not.
We're not talking about, but
yeah, let's not get distracted by the state of the video games industry at this moment. We have this 11-year-old game to discuss first.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we're talking about the experience of this 11-year-old game walks us right through that history in a way, out of the single player era and into this sort of multiplayer open world type of thing, even though this is a single player game we're talking about. But okay, let's try and just go through the rest of the single player story here, though, such as it is.
Yep.
And see how long that takes us, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So when we left off last time, we had closed the breach, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We collected our party. We'd had basically everyone in our party. There's one extra guy you're going to get at the beginning of this next mission based on what you did before, whether it was mages or Templars. You'll either get Dorian or Cole a little later, basically.
Yes. And I mean, the thing is, we made our alliance last time with either the mages or the Templars. Either way, they will help you now close the main breach, which I don't know. This happens very abruptly. It's done in a cutscene, basically. And obviously, it's a false dawn moment because we're about to... The villain is about to show up and attack our base, and we're about to have our Battle of Hoth moment here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Is there any reason not to have an actual mission or a fight around the actual closing the breach here? It felt like a weird corner to cut, like one of the main story missions here.
I guess not. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It is just essentially the opening stanza of the mission proper, which is right. Yeah, the bad guy showing up. And I
think the telegraph,
we've closed a lot of goddamn fades already at this point in the game, and we'll continue to. So I don't know how exciting it is.
I mean, sure, but I don't think the solution to that too many fade rift closings is the problem. I don't think the solution to that is we need to skip the one with the most story significance and
Maybe
keep all the random ones across the other 12 boards we're going to do. And I also think it sort of telegraphs that, well, obviously this is not... It's been such a big game that I could see, especially with more casual players, if there was a mission of some length leading up to that, thinking that, okay, I guess this is the end of the game. And we beat the bad guy or whatever before it opens up. I mean, well, yeah, so you probably can't do it anymore. But I remember how effective this structure was for me in Final Fantasy VI as a kid, which is a game that is basically two games, and you get to a point there where it does feel like, oh, this could be the final dungeon and going to the final boss fight. And then there's a story twist and a whole another half of the game happens. And that, blew my mind as a little kid. I don't know if this could pull off the same thing exactly with how long we've been playing or whatever. But I don't know. You spend a lot of time in the hinterlands and the fallow mire and whatnot, and you can be fooled into thinking that you're closer at the end of the game, I guess.
I would never have believed that. 3 boards down, I would... No. Well, I guess, I don't know. I guess you could have gone to some of the other boards first.
You can go to the Forbidden Oasis, I guess. But
right. Mm-hmm. And that Western approach. Yeah. Fair enough. It is... I mean, ultimately, what we're talking about is the end of Act 1, I guess. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, but like structurally, this mission closes out the beginning of the game. Like you could get the title card drop at the end of this mission, and you'd be like, "Oh wow!" That moment could happen. As it turns out, there's not an enormous amount of story afterwards. It's not like it really is just the first 20% of the game or something. It's probably like what? First 40% of the game happens before this mission, something like that.
In terms of story, yes, but in terms of like hours of gameplay, you're a quarter of the way in, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't even got to Skyhold at this point in the game. Yeah. And that is sort of the main base of operations for you. So essentially, you close this rift and you're having your little celebration parties. Like, yeah, we did it, and then the actual villain of the game shows up, with an army behind him. Whoever you didn't take last, you didn't pick last time, basically for your previous mission, and flying on a giant decaying dragon, which is very much a thing in Dragon Age. Actually never quite nails down, is this an archdemon or not, or what the deal is.
No, they'd say it is not, but it is a dragon infected with the blight, which I don't know. Seems to me like splitting hairs. But
Mm-hmm.
the section I was playing through yesterday, that I was talking to Morgan about it. She was explaining this to me, and I was like, I don't know, lady. If you say that's not an Archdeacon, fine, but it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck and reincarnates dead gods like a duck. We can call it an Archdeacon.
Right. There might be lore reasons why you can't. I mean, it would trigger another blight. Is the problem, Al?
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't command Darkspawn. I think that's the distinction.
But Corypheus does, right?
No, he does Red Templars and Vegetary Mages. That's the other thing. I thought, you said the game just presents it as if you chose the Mages, he shows up with an army of Templars, and if you chose the Templars, he shows up with an army of Mages.
That's not quite right.
I chose the Templars, and that's kind of true, but then he has an army of Templars too. For the whole rest of the game.
Jesus. Okay, fine. Well, that's super weird then. All right.
I guess it's fine. I just don't know why the game set up that distinction and then just went, but we want to use these, enemy assets regardless. We have to fill a lot of large boards, I guess, with enemies.
I would have just thought more. Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay. So, you get a siege on your hometown, Haven, the city of Haven, which you've kind of built into a prospering little hamlet. And all of a sudden, everything's on fire, and everyone's trying to escape. And there's monsters pouring in, and you have to go to specific places on the map and be like, "Oh no, there's a siege happening here. You have to break the siege that's coming in." And so you're running around putting out fires. Well, not literally, but dealing with prompts. And
you're trying to fire trebuchets to trigger avalanches to impede the army's progress, I guess.
And so you get through all of this. You are saving minor characters throughout, and if you save them, you'll see them later in the game. If not, they're dead forever. Turns out none of them really matter. But, that is a mechanic.
I lost a lot of minor characters this time, so I didn't realize how that mechanic worked.
Well, they show up at your next base, but they don't, it's for like one line of dialogue and then they're gone, basically. They're not important anymore because all those things are replaced by, things that you're guaranteed to have. So it's just another thing that doesn't feel very impactful. It doesn't matter.
I think it's a fine thing to include.
Sure. I would have liked it to have more significance. Rub our face in our failures, please, BioWare. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. We could have done a little funeral scene.
Oh, fun,
when we get to Skyhold. To really kind of rub my nose in the in the puddle I made. But yeah,
they do it a touch, maybe. We meet Corypheus.
You come face to face with Corypheus. We talked about last time, sort of being a largely absentee villain. I don't remember how we mentioned. I do love the voice effect they do for him. He's fun to listen to, so which is why I wish that we got to chat with him more or argue with him more.
I wish there was more to this guy for sure, because conceptually, I think he's really cool. He is, of course, one of the Tevinter mages that ascended to the throne of heaven through magic and befouled the imperial city in the Fade and turned it into the Black City, and is responsible for all evil on Earth, or at least for the Blight and all Darkspawn. And he's been sort of promoted into through the use of arcane magic into this sort of Darkspawn entity that is tilting at godhood. This is a good villain for a fantasy game.
It's a good idea. Yeah. I hate how he looks.
Yeah, he looks stupid. he's a dumb looking guy.
There is no reason why this guy should be 11 feet tall. His thing is not that he's gonna fight us with his arms and feet and stuff anyway. So he doesn't need to be this distorted,
sort of a spindly wraith kind of thing.
Yeah. You still haven't watched this season's rehearsal, have you?
No.
Okay, I don't want to.
Is there a Corypheus-like thing going on in this season of the rehearsal?
There's a 14-foot tall marionette at one point, and it looks just very unnatural. I mean, it's played for laughs there, how unnatural and weird this thing looks, and but that is at odds with the whole point as we're doing research into the background of our villain here, we're uncovering that he was a human man, and apparently, touching the throne of God and spoiling it also like extended him, like the girl in Willy Wonka, I guess, like stretched her out in the taffy machine, and also he's got these like long spindly arms and long like I don't
Doesn't
know,
really have legs.
Deathstrike fingers.
Yeah.
And it's all dumb. It's unrelated to his actual powers. So
yeah, which are based around this elven orb that he carries around. It's sort of a conduit for his powers. I don't know.
He's very related to Irenicus from the Baldur's Gate 2 villain.
Yeah.
In terms of like their general deal and powers and all that, and that was just a guy who was a wizard who had kind of a cool look that they had made for him. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know, just why he needs to be this extended anime guy is confusing to me.
Well, I mean, anime, I kind of get the influence on this, but we didn't need to be so literal about the look. I would, there's
it does relate with some of the gripes I had about just the demons as enemies in this. Generally, that I find them unsatisfying in how they are sort of, either balls of mist, like the wraiths. They're not like, I mean, they present as ghostly vapors. They don't play that way. Like their hitboxes are the same as anything.
Sure.
You go up and hit them with knives and it's fine. You do full damage and all that. But then there you have the despair demons, which are piles of rags that float and hop around and are sort of explicitly weightless in their movement. And what else you get? You get
and lava blob guys.
Terrors that are the long spindly guys, kind of like Corypheus.
Green squiggles. Yeah.
Green squiggles that also teleport around, and they do nightcrawler bamfing, and that also like makes them feel a little less tethered to any kind of physics or like real sense of weight.
Well, I'm okay with that because they're demons. They're demons from another dimension. I honestly think the biggest problem with them is just how many times you fucking fight them. Like it's just too much. I wouldn't mind them if I fought them a reasonable number of times.
Well, that's the bigger problem. Yeah. But even the rage demons are the lava creatures, right? And but even those are
a little hemmed in by previous design decisions in these games, a little bit.
But those are like blobs of taffy that are around, and not a one of these things feel like it's very satisfying to whack them with a sword or something heavy. It is, even though
really have hit
gameplay wise, yes, there's also that. I don't know why, but that didn't bother me as much when I was the Darkspawn and Origins didn't necessarily have hit animations. You had to kill animations sometimes. Maybe that just went a really long way to make it like, okay, well these things have a sense of mass and weight to them.
Well, there's a lot more fighting in this game. A lot more fighting in this game than any previous Dragon Age. I mean, just by dint of size.
Yeah, and this is all compounded, like you said, by doing it so much. And when you're playing on higher difficulties like I am hitting them so many goddamn times before I can kill them. Eventually in this stretch, I just turned down the difficulty. Not because I was having a problem with dying. It's just that I was getting really bored. I would get, as my guys got really leveled up, and now I could handle any fight. But that meant the higher level fights, there'd just be these extended periods where I got my barriers and my guards up and everything, and the enemies can't really damage me, and I can barely damage them though. So we're just standing there, whacking each other kind of uselessly for minutes on end, and it became very frustrating.
Yeah, and that extends the amount of time you're playing this game too. I guess I've technically got my complete the game on this hard difficulty, achievement, which for some reason I had in my mind I wanted. So I guess I could adjust it down now for the DLC, which is when I want it most, I guess, because those fights just those take forever, man. It's not harder, as you say; it's just longer. So yeah, I'm probably gonna join you on that, man. But
I honestly, I gave you a lot of shit in the first episode about choosing to be an archer. I mean, really a dwarven archer. I just like you already have a Varric was my main issue. But as a dagger rogue, like I guess I'm the biggest damage dealer in my party. I still haven't. Maybe I just never mastered in combat or whatever. I still feel like I do a lot of standing near enemies and swinging my knives around very fast, but not actually hitting them. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like an expert ninja assassin so much as I'm a flailer. I throw myself in the middle of the fight and flail around until it's over.
Well, there is a combat mechanic that occurs after you leave Haven. We should get to. So let's finish up with Haven. There's not much else to say. You lose your original base of operations and you gain a new one. Skyhold, which is a castle in the mountains. This is like your home base. It's one of the biggest for any Bioware game. We're familiar with home bases, and this is kind of the most committed. In sort of a Skyrim-esque kind of way. You can build it up, make it your own, etc. I actually really like the Haven mission as a whole. I think it ends quite well, taking stock of what you lost. This is still when the game's cooking, this is still enjoying myself quite a bit at this point. And I think this is all really good. And in some ways, maybe the peak of the game.
Yeah. So I guess we should say after you have your conversation with Corypheus, you trigger the last avalanche to cover like the escape of everybody. Yeah. And your hero is sort of stranded, left behind. And there's a pretty extended just sort of walk through dark, snowy mountains as you try and like catch up to them.
I'm so familiar with this in a video game at this point.
Really? Is this comment? I mean, I guess that's how Red Dead Redemption 2 opens.
Yep. Red Dead's got this. Yeah. A lot of RPGs have a thing. Well, even the forest in Mass Effect 3 is a little of this, sort of just pushing forward. Despite your all odds and injuries through some sort of liminal space, you're visited by ghosts or whatever, and it just kind of goes on longer than you expect. And it's meant to imply sort of a danger and a proximity to death, which you never really quite buy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it can be quite effective, and in this case, I found it to be. Initially, and
I like this scene, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And RPGs especially are so much about the power of fantasy of allowing you to be the most powerful person in the universe, and being an unstoppable badass. That anytime they can kind of knock your feet out from under you a little bit without, grinding the game to a complete halt. It's a worthwhile thing to try and do. I guess for some people, it probably does grind it to a halt. And to some people, like the rousing song Liliana leads the stragglers in to buoy their spirits is a bit cheesy.
Give me that. Give me more stuff like that, please. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Mm-hmm. That's sort of an essential thing in every Dragon Age is that there's one part where everyone sings a song. It sounds a little like a hymn. This is one of the better versions of it, I think.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as a trope of the series. And, if it's fucking good enough for Tom Bombadil, it's good enough for Liliana, I suppose.
Sure.
I guess that makes it feel like a fantasy novel or a movie, like an older kind of cheesy one. But
well, that's what I want from these, though.
I like that.
I want it to feel like a cheesy fantasy novel. Yeah, much more so than I want it to feel like a World of Warcraft type thing. I want to be like digging into this stuff and the plot and the narrative. That's the appeal here. That's the fun of this. And I don't know. I mean, I say this. We've talked about Mass Effect. I think those are incredibly effective. Just shooters. They're fun. They're really fun to play. That's why I never get tired of Mass Effect. Is even after you go through the entire 100+ hours, I really enjoy the mechanics of the fighting. And I was kind of there.
I still like shooting things.
Yeah, but
deep into the third game there, and I no longer I don't care about killing rage demons anymore.
No, I mean this is the problem. Look, a game that is this long, it's almost inevitable you're going to lose interest in the combat system. Almost, not necessarily, but it's a hard thing to maintain. It has to evolve as you play it, and this does. Once you get to your new base, the castle, Skyhold, you were given the option to unlock a classification for your
Specialization.
a specialization, yes, for your mage, fighter, or rogue, and it's frankly quite a few hoops you have to jump through to get to this point. But
it took me a really long time after they gave me the choice to okay, now go on a scavenger hunt to pick up these 7 things, and
that's
it took
kind of
me
a
like
pain in
12
the ass.
hours to
The less said about that, the better, I think. But what was the classification you ended up with? Specialization,
assassin.
Okay,
Which
how
may
was
be a
that for you?
completely duplicate of Cole. Like I said, I'm a flailer. I mean,
Not great.
I didn't want to be my choices as a rogue were Traps guy, which why would anybody want to be Traps guy in an action-based RPG? I guess. I mean, I'm sure that there are like builds for that are hugely effective, but it seems like the least interesting way to play. And
Seems
I don't want to
tedious.
stop and slow down these combat encounters any more than they already are. And then Tempest was the other one that I still don't quite follow what, like, everybody, you get access to all these specializations because one of your party members is one of these, every one of them is one of these things.
Right.
And then you choose one to double up, basically. And so through using Sarah, I've used the Tempest stuff. I don't really know what any of it's doing. I don't know how effective any of it is. Assassin seemed like it came with the most just passive kind of buff abilities. Right. And like that stuff, at least it will be activating every time I attack. I also like ran out of buttons to hotkey things too. So now like I have higher level abilities, but I'm not even using additional abilities at this point because I don't have anywhere to put them.
I also rogue, so I had the access to the same 3, and I went with the Tempest for my archer build. And so I can explain Tempest to you. It's weird, man.
Okay.
I've never experienced this kind of a character or an array of abilities in a game, in any game, really. The idea behind what a Tempest rogue is that you are constantly using potions, crafting and using potions on yourself. Now, functionally, that's not really a thing. You just have potions, and you hit a button and it activates. I think in world you're actually breaking them like on your body. You're not drinking them. You're just like breaking vials and dousing yourself with something that gives you. There's 3 different powers that you can use, and the important one is it's sort of the fire one, which allows you to spam your special abilities without a cooldown. So, I mean, the way this build works is you get that ability, you make it as powerful as possible, and then you get a throwing knives ability, which is high damage output. So you hit your fire potion that gives you unlimited ability to use a power with no cooldown, and then you use the throwing knives power just over and over and over, and it is really fast, really powerful, and it's you're making like 8 hits each time you use it, and you use it the 5 to 8 seconds you have before the thing expires, and you just melt through bosses on it, basically. It is very effective. It's just kind of weird and it doesn't really make sense in world, and ultimately isn't too much fun to just play over and over.
In terms of lore, you're juicing, basically.
Or you're doing drugs.
Do you see yourself more like Bane from the comic books, or is this more like just Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds crushing a beer can on his head and getting
I think it is
himself up?
A mechanical process like Bane. I believe that there is a thing that is happening causing you to be, super powered for a brief burst of time. And then then you're kind of weaving around waiting for you're waiting for the cooldown on the no cooldown power to finish off and do it again.
Is that mechanically satisfying or fun? At least initially. I know that
initially, yes.
Now that we're 80 hours into the game, none of this is
exactly. Initially,
it's lost all flavor, but
it's very effective, and it's kind of fun to just melt through shit. Like you come up to a Fade Rift and you're just like boom, 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 and all these guys drop, and then you're waiting for the next round, at which point your power has restored, and then you just boom, boom, boom again, and everyone's done. It's also really good against bosses or single enemies. It's very powerful, And especially when you kind of build yourself to make that your primary thing. But then it's also, eventually it's literally all you do. There's no real, the combat ceases to have much real impact at all because it's exactly the same thing every single time. Maybe a dragon will give you some trouble, but mostly it's just show up and perform the exact same actions against whatever you may find, and you will win. And that is the intended build. It feels like I'm exploiting a cheat, actually. It feels like I'm breaking the game in some way, but no, it's the way it's supposed to be used.
Did you kill all the dragons?
I killed all the dragons, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I killed 5 out of 10. I'm done, I think.
I enjoyed that. I mean, those are the biggest challenges in the game. There's 3 in Emprise de Leon, and they're the best ones, so...
That's like the only area I haven't cleared out at this point.
Yeah.
Is where you have to rebuild the bridge to get to those. Yes.
It takes for fucking ever.
And I don't know where the other one. I killed one in. Okay, I did the Hinterlands, Crestwood, Storm Coast, Emerald Graves, and the Western Approach. Did I say that?
Yep, that's got one.
Is there one in the Fallow Mire?
No.
That's the only place where there isn't one, I think.
I think that is the only one without. Yes. There's one in the Exalted Plains.
I thought I did that one, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that's like
Hissing Waste has one?
Water?
What's that?
Aren't you like standing knee deep in water in the Exalted Plains one?
No, I believe that's the Storm Coast.
No, because I just did that one yesterday, and it was.
It might be. No, you're right. You're right.
You have to you have to take a
standing
boat
water
to the Dragon
Plains.
Island.
Yeah.
I definitely did that one, and I remember I did it, and then as it died, it glitched out and respawned the dragon at full health, and so I turned down the volume or the difficulty to redo it the second time. Maybe it didn't take the second time either. Oh well, fuck it. I'm done with dragon hunting at this point.
You get a lot of dragon bones and blood and skin and stuff that you can make weapons and armor out of, and that's it. That's it.
I think I'm done with crafting systems generally now. Like, just let me buy and sell stuff.
In any games, yes.
The crafting stuff here, it's so much better than anything you find or buy that I still feel like obligated to do it. For some reason, my fucking broken ass brain is like making me craft stuff for Cole, a character I know I'm not ever going to use.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
Never once going to swing those knives at anybody.
Yeah. I'm doing the same thing, and it feels dumb at some point. You're just like, well, what's the point of all this? I mean, I'm just going to go in there and spam my one ability over and over again. I can make it a little faster on myself, I guess, by doing this. I'm trying to like max out my other guy's clothes at this point, and then I've got all this useless stone that I'm just like, well, I'm never going to use these low quality stones that I have so much of. There's no point. It just makes shitty armor. Yeah. Yeah, that whole system, I don't know. I
still need the numbers to be as high as possible for some reason.
Just to speed it up, yeah.
Even with the people I'm not going to use. I know that I'm going to the final mission. I know I'm not going to take Cole or Iron Bull with me. Mm-hmm. But so why am I bothering checking their armor to? But
don't worry much about the final mission, man.
Yeah, I know about that. Okay.
All right, so we should. That's combat. Fuck it. It's better than 2. I'll give it that. But man, it's just, I don't think it's good enough for what this game demands of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe it's my specialization is not that interesting. Maybe it's that. Maybe there's one way to really play this and it's super fun. But I don't know, man. It's repetitive no matter what. And it's never going to be an action game. Exactly.
So this is the point that happens after the first act of a Bioware game where the whole world map opens up to you. And you get to choose which area you want to explore first and what quest line you want to pursue. So the difference between this and how a lot of the Bioware games work is that for most of these, going back to Knights of the Old Republic, the Mass Effect work this way, and Origins, when you get to this opening up point, there's then maybe 3 or 4 branches of story you can, main quest lines you can choose to pursue. In this one, it throws open a bunch of new areas you can explore, but there's still only one clearly marked progress the story mission. And so it's both broader and more diffuse and more linear at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That ultimately, I think that it's not immediately game breaking, but it has to be contributing to the sort of the ennui that we're both complaining about feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the play of this game is going to these different maps and just, checking out all the...
Farting around.
Yeah, farting around. Looking at all the quest markers on a map and seeing how many you can get. That's the game. There are three. There's 3 missions, basically, after you get to Skyhold. 3 big story missions that there's things you have to do to unlock these missions. You got to go talk to your guy in Crestwood or whatever. But, basically, you get 3 big missions where you get to go do story things that progress the story. And that is the Winter Palace, the Warden's Fort, and the Temple of Mythal. And all 3 of them are but 2 to 3 hour missions. The Warden one might even be shorter than that. They are not long. They are they're interesting, and they introduce new kind of gameplay elements, or well, sort of. And there's
the Winter Palace does, at least.
The Winter Palace does, yeah, that's about it. And they're all kind of good. They're all kind of solid, but they are the amount of time you spend doing these compared to the amount of time you spend doing the rest of the game is actually pretty low. And
right,
surprisingly
and the rest of the
low.
game stuff.
Yeah.
I think in the earlier episodes, I was praising this game for how all the little fetch quest stuff feels like it contributes to your overall mission in some way, that you're building up the Inquisition, building up your weapons and things, and building up your power base and all that. That, I guess, was true up to a point. And that's now here, though, it stops feeling like I can still collect agents maybe from different places, and I can still technically upgrade my potions based on what I've collected and do this or that, but there's nothing in the story really pushing me to, you need to, outside of those 3 missions. There's 8 different things to explore, but nothing pushing me to any of them in particular. I mean, I guess you've kept conversations with your party members, and they'll sometimes say, you need to go, take me here to do this thing. But even those feel generally pretty low stakes. We'll talk about the 2 exceptions to that. But I don't know. It never felt like in Mass Effect, the game was telling me, okay, you need to go to this place to find Saren, but before you do that, you need to go grind for a while. And this game explicitly, with the story missions are clearly marked, and they have, suggested levels on them. So it basically is telling you, go grind out some levels and just do side stuff. It's, I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
it wants you to do that. I mean, that is the game, is these boards. There are these big worlds that they've constructed for you to go play. I wish they had stories. I wish these individual boards had stories that you could go explore and complete the narrative of this place. In a way that that you felt like there was some sort of something being accomplished in the Emerald Graves. And they have very, very little things. Very there's an elf temple over there. There's some guys fighting over there. You can go deal with that. There's circumstances, but there's no narrative.
Yes. I guess, yes, that's a good distinction to draw. Circumstances as opposed to full narratives. Because I guess when you really drill down, there is somewhere on each of these boards something going on. When you go to the Fallowmire, there are some barbarian guys that captured some of your soldiers, and you have to go clear out their fort to free those guys. And when you go to the Emerald Graves, there is a sort of separatist group there that is contributing to a civil war in Orlais that you're trying to resolve so that everybody can focus on helping you with Corypheus. And you meet a named guy there who's, I guess, the Robin Hood figure. But in practice, I step onto that board and I don't feel a narrative pull to go to this one thing or anything. He is just one quest marker on a map that has 28 quest markers on it. And the conversation there is very brief. There's not maybe part of it is just that for most of these things, there are not really decisions to be made.
I think that would be a huge help if you could affect the world state in all these places by the things you do. If you could make some choices or choose a faction or make some determination that changes things for you for, and this is the benefit you get. This is the cost you pay for this choice. And it could, this is essentially what Origins is. I mean, like if, Orzammar is essentially a board that you are clearing, and you do things there and they're impactful. And some of the great story beats of Bioware there. We're just not doing story beats in these fucking places. Crestwood has a little bit of one. It's the mayor causing a flood plot line from Jade Empire, essentially.
But it's
just sort of repurposed once again. That's like it. There's little ones that don't mean anything. There's nothing significant. Nothing changes. You don't feel like you have any control over it, and it does feel like, essentially talking to this one guy is essentially the same as putting down a landmark banner, one of 17 for this map. None of it really has an impact on your game or your story or anything like that. And I think this would make a huge difference. It would make the game longer, probably, but maybe you can just better devise these things. They all take about 4 to 5 hours anyway. So just make them like little contained stories,
Yeah, I don't think it would make the game longer because it already takes a long time just to do the busy work.
Right. Just take out the busy work and replace it with narrative, and this would probably be a lot more fun.
Yeah, and I guess that would be more work on the production side. I mean, you make the maps smaller in that way.
Yeah.
Except this is what Origins did. Origins had much smaller maps than this. I wonder too, though, I wonder how much the mini map and the quest markers are a villain in all this. Because if you'd taken the Orzammar from Origins, and rather than just having my journal being updated under the Orzammar heading that I could toggle through, if they were actually putting down little markers, icons on a mini map, showing me every person I could talk to about any story beat and every merchant and marking every possible thing to do in Orzammar with a mini map icon, would I be overwhelmed by that and just be trying to clear the icons off the map and not paying as much attention to what the people are saying when I'm talking to them? Because I'm just waiting to see if
they're saying more
clear this marker, or did it set up 3 new ones? I don't which one is this conversation going to do?
That is a problem. I think if people were saying things that were more interesting, like they are in Orzammar, then I think it would be less of an issue. Although, that's just sort of a design thing that was very popular at the time, is the map full of mission markers, and they to this day persists. It bothers people with reason. But if you were having conversations as interesting as, when you talk to the Shaperit in Orzammar, which is a pretty inconsequential encounter, but it enhances the lore quite a bit, I think we'd be doing better. There's minor versions of that here, I'm thinking of the researcher you find in the Western Approach that you can have a very long series of conversations about the dragon with, if you want. He just doesn't impact you in any way, really, or your game in any way.
I also just got really tired of going back to him and telling him, okay, I found the bait for the traps. Okay, I found the traps. Okay, I found the writings you asked for.
It's content.
That also becomes a series of fetch quests.
Yeah, it's things that add to the game. It is more things to do, but to what great effect? Almost none. And maybe you can get away with this a little bit more in 2014. I did not remember this game boring me as much in 2014. I remember it being, a bit of it's not the most fun game. I remember kind of the high points less than this stuff. I think if I'm going forward, when I think of this game, I'm going to think of the grind of it all. Because, it just existing as it does now, there's not much.
I remember it being difficult from 2014. And I think that's probably because back then I insisted on playing with friendly fire on. Yeah. And this time, that was one of the few things I brought up forward from 2014. It's like, I remember that, and I know I don't have time for this playthrough to mess with that. Like I said, I got past halfway through the game over the hump of any fight being actually one that was going to be a threat of killing me. Yeah. But the threat of tedium persists.
Yeah, a new enemy has arisen. That's actually very accurate. I mean, I'm playing on a hard difficulty too. It's not like I'm pushing yourself in this game is not really fun. I would say, because it is just make the things spongier, make your combat take longer, even though the end is more or less preordained, just by your level and the abilities you have, and you know how to play this at this point, kind of thing. And yep, well, it's another round of green squiggles and wraith ghosts, and
Yeah,
I mean, it becomes kind of about how fast you can do it, I guess. But
it's kind of interesting how inconsistent BioWare has been on the difficulty issue for me, because this and the first Mass Effect, I think, are big offenders in terms of, well, highest difficulty just means now everybody has all the enemies have 1 billion health. It just takes forever to kill them, as opposed to Origins, the later Mass Effect games, Baldur's Gate 2. The higher difficulties there were fun and challenging because they introduced different layers of tactics, or I mean, one, Baldur's Gate 2 especially had just such an enemy variety and an enormous glut of abilities and builds that your characters could be using, that there
bottomless
was
pit.
900 ways to skin every cat, or displace or beast, as the case may be. And with Mass Effect and whatever, they have different varieties of protections on the enemies, which at least required some variation in the order of operations that you're going through, if nothing else. If you have there's a lid for each of these 3 pots. But yeah, in this one, it does feel like it's just a matter of like, how much faster can I cycle through these 3 abilities that I'm using over and over again. It doesn't really matter the order of them, at least the way I'm playing. You know what I did figure out very, very late into my 3rd playthrough of this game is the power of the Dispel magic spell, which...
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I read that thinking, it just kind of removes like status effects, but these fights usually aren't drag. I mean, I can get through them fast enough that I'm not really feeling like, this status effect is what is killing me here.
Right.
And then there was one boss that just had, I don't know what it was, just 8 billion points of barrier. And I had not, it was in the Temple of Durtamen or whatever, where
Durlathan?
I can't, sure. Yeah. I can't switch up my party and realize I have not brought anybody in here who can deal with barriers. And this fight was just taking forever and ever and ever. And that's what finally got me to turn the difficulty down. And also realize that by some Googling, Dispel will remove barriers from enemies too. That would be good. Would have been good to know 45 hours ago.
It is good. It's another thing I just melt through with my Tempest guy. I'm just like, no more barrier. That's been my response to that.
It also, apparently, when they're doing the warp in at the Fade Rifts, you're waiting for the second wave to come in.
Oh, you can cancel it.
Yeah. But yes, you can do Dispel on one of them and just it cancels an enemy from coming in. That's a great time saver.
Yeah, very much so.
Which is where we're at now, is just trying to save time.
So who are your guys in this? Who do you use? I kind of ultimately landed with a pretty consistent team. Yeah.
The whole group except for Cole, who's a duplicate of me.
I never used Cole either.
I switch around. Every time I go back to base, I come out with I cycle through if I using 2 warriors and then using 2 rogues and then using 2 mages each time I come back, and it's whoever I wasn't using last time, switch them up.
Okay, fair enough. I've determined that Dorian's my best mage, and he will always come with me. I kind of go 2 heavies, 2 warriors generally. That's kind of how I like to roll. I think just
probably the best one.
Yeah, then you basically have all the aggro and guard and barrier and stuff that you could possibly want, and you can just pick everyone off as fast as possible. That was my experience. So it was like a lot of Blackwall, Cassandra, Dorian teams.
Well, I mean, I think what you need is 2 melee and 2 ranged. So you're a ranged guy, I'm a melee gal, and so I don't. Actually, rolling with 2 warriors because one of them is going to be a tank and Iron Bull, and me all up in there. And that's probably the least effective loadout. I do better with Varric or Sarah as a support, or even a second mage. I mean, with 2 mages, you can just keep barriers over everybody nonstop and be just kind of invincible. And that, again, it's effective, but kind of makes there's nothing to it. But if I have to kill a dragon, I do that just so I can keep the barriers up the whole time. And it just takes a long time to bring them down.
Yeah, it's interesting. You more barriers. I'm more guard. I'm using my warriors to build guard up. Cassandra just creates guard for everybody like a drop of a hat.
Oh, but you can't put guard on other characters. You can barrier the whole team at once.
Well, that's true. No, there's things that put guard on everybody. There's abilities.
But like Cassandra can't put guard on Solus.
Can she? He can't. I think so.
Really? Okay.
Who cares?
Well, guard is the best defense of them all. It's we still have no idea what it is, but it's the most effective.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, should we just wrap up the go through the story here? Tell the
yes, that was the premise of what we were doing starting an hour ago. We've made it through one mission. Okay, so the next story mission is we have to go to the Winter Palace of Halam Sharal in Orlais to resolve the Orlesian Civil War by doing some real Game of Thrones shit.
This is what you want. This is a Bioware premise. This is, going to a fancy dress ball and you're dressed up and you're being like, oh, there's factions and oh, there's the great game. Everyone is watching you and observing you. You must gain favor with the court if you were to, really influence the events in Orlais. And there's stories to unlock.
Murder behind the scenes.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this is a pretty, there's like no combat in this until the very end. Or maybe not at all, depending how you play it.
You go exploring, and you're kind of on a timer. You have to check into the party every once in a while, or else people start to gossip about you, I guess, is the idea. But when you're scrolling through, you come across the clown assassins, the Harlequins.
Oh, sure.
And all that.
Them guys.
It's one of the things where you have to re-equip all your weapons and armor, like when you go back into the regular combat zones, which is annoying. But overall, this is a very good set. This is the highlight of the game, I would say, probably, for most people.
I don't know if it's my favorite thing in the game, because, I get a little annoyed at like having to there's time limits and you got to find all the right things and stuff like that. But there's kind of no denying that it becomes a lot more exciting to play for a couple hours here when you're handling this, because it's just such a curveball in what you're used to. And there's mechanics that you have to pay attention to that you never do in the rest of the game. And it's, and it's storytelling, which is always BioWare's strong suit.
That's what I'm talking about more than the gameplay. Like those fights are not the most interesting fights necessarily, but they are more interesting because there's these different things going on around it. And this gets sort of your crew out into a different environment. So they're not huddled around the war table constantly. You still have to decide like which of your combat people to bring with you, but you can put some fish out of the water.
Yeah,
in there, for fun. You're bringing Cole and Sarah in there. Or you can decide to lean into it and bring Vivienne because she's an expert in such things.
Yes.
Yeah. And they all have different things to say and different reactions to it.
Yeah, super fun, actually. This is all good stuff. And this is also, this strikes me, we've been talking about how these games, Dragon Age, owe a massive debt to Game of Thrones, specifically the book, because it kind of predates the show in those early games. This one does not predate the show. This one is, this one's gets made when the show is popular.
Oh, does not predate the show. You're right.
Inquisition.
But for all that,
it's very Game of Thrones here.
I suppose I was thinking Origins to me felt like it was very much about bringing Game of Thrones vibes into a D&D campaign. And this mission, I was thinking they're sprinkling in some Downton Abbey into this.
Yes,
into
I
this D&D
suppose.
setting.
Well, that's
Yeah.
true, but it is about courtly intrigue and
Yes.
and playing each other and the bureaucracy of it and the hidden whispers in the courtyard where they're who's plotting against whom and what can you reveal about your rivals in court and that feels very much like the Varys Littlefinger Cersei kind of Red Keep stuff from the really exciting popular seasons of Game of Thrones. At least that's the inspiration.
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, this is fun stuff. You basically have to choose between supporting the current empress, who is a kind of conniving but political figure, and
the
then
devil, yes, mm-hmm.
or her cousin, who is a more no nonsense army general that wants to depose her because he says he was supposed to be emperor initially, and she, pulled some Littlefinger machinations to keep him off the throne originally. And then there's an elvish advisor that's lurking around, is sort of the Varys figure, I guess, who's a former consort of the queen, but now is kind of trying to run her own game. And then the queen's, or the empress's, I suppose, cousin, I think, is the one who reveals herself to be the agent of Corypheus that is, unmasks herself and in my version, assassinated the empress.
Oh my! Okay.
Before we had to in front of everybody. And I mean,
cool.
It is kind of a dumbing down moment where we go through these couple hours of Game of Thrones courtly intrigue, and then she stabs her on the balcony in front of everybody and yells, "Long live Corypheus!" and runs and jumps off a balcony to try and escape. And you chase her down and fight her.
I think I had the ideal resolution to this. I got everyone to agree and defeated the agent of Corypheus without a combat sequence. It was entirely just working my magic in court. Everyone joined up together and be like, well, the three of us together can rule Orlais best, but the Empress stays the Empress. And
I did that last time, I think.
I'm not proud of it per se. It worked out.
Well, no, it's the best ending. Like it is. It's the hardest needle to thread. So it is sort of like, I don't know. I guess it's comparable to the Geth and the Quarians in Mass Effect 3. Like,
sure, yeah.
There are three different solutions to that. It's one side dies, the other side dies, or they coexist and live. And like one of those is clearly superior to the others.
Well,
but is that necessarily the best narrative resolution to it?
The reason I bristle at comparing those two is because the Geth and the Quarian have such a depth of history that you have experienced and created, kind of an opinion of yourself, and you're in the thick of it, and it's the culmination of 3 games, and you're meeting all these characters for the first time here, and you don't really
and they're immediate. Yes, you don't have the same. We don't care about Orlais as much as we do about the Geth and the Quarians, and with the Geth and the Quarians, one of your party members will die there.
Yeah.
Depending on, no matter what the resolution is. And so it has impacts. I mean, maybe I guess it's more of a direct comparison because there's 2 warring factions that you can kind of either choose one or the other or resolve. But maybe a better point of comparison of Mass Effect 3 is Morden's resolution.
No, that's like the best part of Mass Effect 3.
No, but I mean, there's the options of you can kill Morden yourself. Okay. You can let him sacrifice himself, or there is a resolution where he lives, and that is sort of clearly the quote-unquote best resolution. It's the hardest to achieve, and yet it's a weaker narrative resolution. It's less of a resolution for him to live.
Well, I mean, it also does require you to...
Good, I think.
It requires you to lie about the genophage to all of the Krogans. I don't know that that's necessarily the best.
That one's good. They're all good.
Anyway,
it's a better resolution for Morden's character arc, I suppose. If he
lives, it's nice because he's Morden. But you still have to pretend he's dead because the way the game is built out. They have to fake his death. Okay, hey, look, the point is, I mean, we're comparing this to these excellent segments in Mass Effect, and as good as this is, as the Winter Palace sequence is, it does feel a little bit removed from the rest of the game. It is kind of
True.
isolated and hermetically sealed in a way that does not. I mean, technically, the Empress is still the Empress for the rest of the game, and you'll be like getting missives from her. Maybe there'll be war table missions that are based on the resolution here, but it doesn't really matter.
Not as many as I would like.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So I tried this time through to role play a little bit of being an elf.
Mm-hmm.
That I was trying to take the side of the Elvish advisor and do what she wanted. And she kind of wants you to choose the general, partly because she's just mad at the Empress. But I'm like, whatever. I'm trying to elevate elves within Orlesian society, and I'll go this route. So I got this general on my side, and I never really hear from him again through the rest of the game. It feels like, like there is a war table mission or whatever that says, because he's the Emperor now, we can do this thing. And so you send somebody off on a, off-screen mission based on that. But they don't send a representative to Skyhold to talk to you. That is different depending on who it is. It doesn't affect. I mean, actually, they do. You get Morrigan in this.
Yeah. Well, that happens
regardless of.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not doesn't vary based on your decision there. So ultimately, for the rest of the game after this, you don't feel a lot of consequences for which route you chose.
No. You killed the villain in this segment, I suppose, right?
Yes.
I had her arrested and then brought to trial at Skyhold, so I got to decide her fate from the throne. And I decided she should now serve as the jester for the Inquisition. And so that character was like hanging out in the throne room for the rest of the game, dressed as a jester, complaining about things. And it was actually really creepy. I felt like a weird creep.
I did not even know. Okay. Yes, I want to talk about judgments. That whole...
It's pretty fun. I wish there was more.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they're great. And this is sort of... I guess it's the best version of what we're complaining about there not being much of. Like when you go through these big boards and it doesn't feel like there's much of a narrative resolutions. Just about every board will have something that will lead to you. Sometimes you have an option of just killing them on the spot, or you can take them prisoner and then go back to Skyhold and sit on your throne and have them brought before you so you can pronounce judgment on them. Mm-hmm. And these are good. They're sort of pure narrative things. It got to be a little silly to me how they just use the exact same like animation asset for they all have the exact same slumped over body language when they're drug up in chains in front of you. Yeah. Like regardless of whether they're a barbarian in furs, like a bear head, or the lady in their fluffy frilly court clothes. Mm-hmm. They're all hunched over in exactly the same way. Anyway, minor nitpick, but these are great. They should include these in more games, and there should have been more of them in this game.
Yeah, they're fun. Mm-hmm. This is the kind of fun idea that, that you like to see them run with here. And yeah, I wish there was more of these specifically and more things like this throughout the game. It's just a good little world building thing, but it's just fun to do too. And there's a variety of things you can end up with. You can put people in jail and you can go talk to them later, or you can send them off on missions. And those unlock options for you on the war table and result in, things that you get out of it. And, there's like, it feels like the sky's the limit here and they're kind of just dipping their toes in it a little bit. Now, granted, it might be hard to keep coming up with. Well, I don't know. I would say you don't have to, you don't actually have to interact with everybody before they show up at the at trial. You can just handle like regular crimes, like Daenerys does in Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think I believe the farmer who who owned the horse initially is in the right. I wish there was more shit like that. Yeah,
they don't all have to be prisoners.
Exactly. Yeah,
like it could just be disputes, but. Yeah, there are, and I guess the way they do some of that stuff is through the war table, and it's like you make your decision on like which side of this thing you read one paragraph about, based on whether you assign it to Cullen or Josephine. They'll pick different sides, but again, that would be much more effectively dramatized if somebody came and talked to you about it instead of giving you 3 sentences of description.
Yeah. I mean, this is a war table problem as well. I want to see more of this stuff dramatized rather than just as text. You can choose a thing about, but it's still kind of just, it is world building, and I appreciate that, but it's also just sort of like, you don't really interact with it very much. Yeah, often a problem in this game.
Okay, so the next big story mission we get on involves going to Crestwood to meet up with a warden contact.
Yes.
Well, first of all, Varric reveals that he is still in touch with Hawk, our hero from the second game, and Hawk comes to Skyhold to talk to you. And this was pretty exciting to me the first time around. That we had in 2014,
Yeah.
we've been through a couple of these Bioware things, and I've been very into them. And the promise was always sort of, well, what if your warden from Origins, maybe they'll return in Dragon Age 2, or maybe, Darth Revan will come back in Knights of the Old Republic 2, or maybe it'll be Knights of the Old Republic 3. And then by this point, I kind of accepted that actually that's kind of impossible to pull off. You can't have the heroes of the prior games where they were making all these branching decisions come and interact with your new guy in any significant way. And here they kind of pull it off.
Kind of.
Is just a supporting character in this game.
Yeah, you see the limitations of it, but yes, it is cool. You get to design. You have to redesign, basically. Be like, okay, I got to go in and make it match what I made it look like last time. So, but even still, there's a limit on what they can do with it. They kind of find the outer edge of what you can do with that, probably. Yeah. And that's cool. I mean, it probably helps that you're forced to be a human in Dragon Age 2.
It is, and I don't know to what extent. If I
guess they do this in Veilguard. Like the Inquisitor is in Veilguard, from what I understand, based on. Yeah, so I guess they do. They pull it off again, one way.
Well, we'll get to Veilguard when we get to it, and
one of these days.
Assess it, how they pulled off there. Mm-hmm. Here, I wonder if I had ever actually committed to doing, 40 or 50 hours of playthrough of Hawk as a, crazy bastard evil character, if that would have affected much of anything of their presentation here.
Nah. I mean, I was a pretty bastard Hawk, and it didn't seem to have much of an effect on things.
Yeah, your Hawk here was still just very focused on sort of defeating Corypheus and doing right by the world.
Yeah, I mean, she was best friends with Warden Loghain, which is an odd kind of odd pairing. He's the villain, of course, from the first game, who survived mine and was sentenced to become a warden, and here he is as a warden, a really good warden, actually, and him and Hawk have somehow become good friends off camera.
I mean, that's, I think, the even cooler thing to me, or more effectively done, is
I agree.
It's not good. Just like incorporating your Hawk here. It's that then Hawk leads you to his contact on the Grey Wardens. And for me, I got Stroud, who is the least interesting option there by a mile. But that's because of the decisions I made in the first two games. And if you have surviving wardens from the first game, this can be either Stroud, who's a guy we met briefly in Dragon Age 2. Fine, he's a nice enough guy, I guess. But it can be Loghain. It could be Alistair, if Alistair remained a Grey Warden there. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any other options for it being Carver or Bethany or Nathaniel Howe. But those would all seem to be options that could fit here.
It'd be interesting. Alistair would probably... that would be a tough thread to knot, but that would be cool. That would be an interesting thing to do there. I'd like to see that.
What would make that difficult?
Well, you have to keep him as a warden. Origins. Not many people keep him as a warden. He either is the king or he's dead or a drunk or something like that. He's a drunk in my world state, for example.
Okay. It's not that it's so difficult to do. It's that it's a rare outcome for anybody to have chosen organically, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which I guess you could do.
From a narrative or programming perspective, it's not like difficult for him to perform the job. If he's in that position at the end of Origins, it's easy for him to be doing this stuff in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads up to the Wardens, because what we're going to gather here as we have to, they have joined Corypheus, which seems like a pretty big shift for them. And what we learned is that basically because Corypheus is connected to the Blight, and that is connected to the Wardens and their powers, he is able to affect the calling, which is the thing that sort of the Darkspawn taint grows within them and eventually like calls them down to the deep roads to die or become a Darkspawn, basically. And through his dark magics, he sort of used that to brainwash them. I mean, I guess, okay, it's indoctrination from Mass Effect.
Yeah, it's not the most elegant thing, but it's interesting, and I love that they did it, actually.
Yeah, it fits with this lore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the Wardens, when it's not during a blight, there is sort of a question of what they are and what value they have. They are not unlike the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones, as we have said. Mm-hmm. They are not particularly well respected in those years when there's no blight, when their purpose has been forgotten by the general populace. They're just sort of like, well, what are these guys doing? What are they religious exactly? What is their deal? And they are also kind of doomed to die in service to this cause because of the vicissitudes of their weird joining ritual. All Wardens ultimately disappear into the deep roads to die fighting the Darkspawn in a sort of a endless battle. And that now they're all getting called to do that. And that's cool. That's interesting. And it makes these guys, they've been built up as the heroes, the big dragon
They're the
age
Jedi of this world.
They are the
how
Jedi.
We were introduced to them.
Yes. Uh-huh. And to see them kind of compromised and failing and mortal and feet of clay is really cool, and it's very much in keeping with the ethos of these games. And I think and it is kind of, I'm interested to see how that places them in the game, in the franchise going forward in Veilguard, because there is now there's a different kind of taint for them to be living under. That's all really cool, and obviously I think that just it's also necessary, I guess. Well, I guess not necessary, but it's wise when you're trying to build up a new faction as being the bulwark against the dark in Thetis. That you kind of have to.
It's not necessary in that you could ignore them entirely, the way that like Dragon Age 2 basically does.
Sure. Sure.
And that is in keeping with the lore, is that blights don't come around every 5 years. So on the timeline we're on, like they're not going to be relevant again for another century. Mm-hmm. But they're important to us as players, and so if you're going to include them, I do think this is a good way, like for the reasons you were saying, of showing them to not be the all-knowing, wise Jedi of this universe. And using the leftover Wardens from prior games is a great way of articulating this. And I think using the calling and that stuff as part of like the way Corypheus is able to influence them is sort of elegant, but also this highlights, I guess, part of the problem with Corypheus as a villain, and is a problem that I think Inquisition and Mass Effect 3 both struggled with the way that the villains are so over-the-top monstrous, which is kind of necessary to allow that player choice where you could be an evil character that still kind of has to fight the same villains in the same way as the lawful good paladin character would go about it anyway. The villains seem to be really extra bad for the more morally compromised hero to work. But you get into this position where when the scale of these things is worldwide or galactic and they want to introduce these political elements, and it seems like Bioware really wants to play around with the ideas of, you have intelligence networks and enemy spies, and you're courting influence of nobles who are being swayed here or being swayed toward there's Cerberus plants in in these various governments or whatever. You have to ferret out, and there's espionage stuff there. Cool stuff. I want to include that. It becomes difficult when the enemy is an 11-foot tall mutant monster man with rocks going out of his face who commands an army of demons, and joining him means you have to become a rock crystal golem monstrosity thing. It's like it's tough to for the Venatori to be a coherent political power in their own right that other nobles or whoever would be just tempted to join for selfish reasons, even. So with both Mass Effect and this, you end up with this like red lyrium, or the indoctrination stuff has to like include this supernatural mind control element in addition to turning people into mutant monsters that are visibly monstrous. And I think that's something maybe that we're talking about adaptation or whatever. You can tone down the things. Maybe like Corypheus doesn't need to present as such a hideous monster man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But
it's easier to have him just look like a British character actor, I suppose, too.
My tolerance for what can be allowed in, for video game purposes or any narrative really that, what people will put up with has expanded greatly in the last 9 years, I would say. Like, if...
Are you talking about what you will put up with, or what you... estimation of what audiences will accept has dropped?
What my estimation of characters in the narrative will do is, has expanded. Like,
okay.
Like,
yeah.
If supporting Donald Trump meant that a bunch of red rocks started growing out of your face, do you think he would lose much support? I don't know.
No, you're fucking right. We do have a bloated, this grotesque flesh golem that's advocating for torturing children, and he's garnering a lot of political support. So,
yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm kind of like, well, no, that tracks actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, actually, red rocks are out of your face are good, as it turns out. Actually, you have a Jubilee series of debates about,
What the National Institute of Health doesn't want you to know about red crystals growing out of your cheeks is the real scandal here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just being silly, though. Yeah, like
Corypheus and the Reapers, like they don't have a cover story.
Yeah,
that doesn't for what they're trying to do that doesn't involve ending the world.
Yeah. And I get there's a few crazy Venatori who are into that, but like all the Wardens, all the Templars, all the it's some heavy lifting. Maybe necessary for this to be,
it's
just have like, it's an army of monsters or whatever, and you want factions to be doing different things, and that makes sense.
The way they do the heavy lifting though is by doing magical mind control stuff, which is a way of assuring that even an evil player character will not have reason or temptation to side with the villain. They still need to be against the villain. That's
this is where adapting this becomes interesting, because this is definitely the hardest adaptation that we've come across talking about Dragon Age games, I think. And that's considering 2 was pretty hard to adapt, but this one I think is much tougher, and I think the way to do it is a massive upheaval of a lot of aspects of the game. We're not talking about today.
Yes, yeah.
That'll be the next episode, the last one we do.
We'll do 45 minutes on that next time.
Oh, yeah, big time. It's a conversation I'm excited to have. In the meantime, though, we got to, finish up the narrative events of this one. The Warden mission here.
But you are right, sorry, about it will take a complete overhaul, and also a thing that kind of brushed up against there. I think it would be impossible at this point to kind of, because what Corypheus is doing, I guess his cover story is kind of make Tevinter great again.
Yeah.
So you kind of see how he's getting some pull from at least one country, not so much from their enemy countries. And that is something I don't think we'll spend a lot of time on that next time. But at this point, it'd be impossible to like avoid drawing that connection if you're adapting Corypheus to the screen. So you may as well sort of embrace it the way that Daredevil Born Again embraces the Trump parallels with its Kingpin
Yeah.
art. Uh,
Well, any sort of. I mean, look, it's just going to be there. If you're watching Andor, and you're just like, well, yeah, makes sense. It's interesting times. The curse of interesting times. Everything will have a reverberation. You know,
yeah. Okay.
even
So
fucking stupid Game of Thrones Corypheus style shit. It's it's just like, oh, I see the parallel to real life there. Okay. Okay.
yes. Okay. So you've made me
Let's wrap
sad.
this
Now let's
up
go
here.
into the fade and
Yeah.
talk to the nightmare.
Yeah. Uh-huh. You go to the warden base, after a series of tasks that you must complete. You eventually end up at the warden base. Okay, we got to stop these guys from supporting Corypheus, essentially, And so you go there, you fight through a bunch of them, through a sort of a barracks at war. It's some good action fighting. There's some of the better combats in the game, maybe here. You end up in the Fade again. It's the part of the game that's in the Fade, as we always have in Dragon Age.
Yeah. And here, yeah, the Fade, I don't know. This is not my favorite part of this game.
The Fade's never the best part of the game.
No, sometimes it's more interesting or more memorable. I don't know. Okay, so the thing is here, you meet the spirit, the ghost, something that is presenting itself as the Dragon Age Pope that exploded at the beginning of the game.
Yes.
And you have to kind of learn about what happened with her exploding and what she was really trying to do and all that, and how you got the anchor on your hand. And it's presented as intrigue and lore, and I don't feel like there's anything actually revelatory in what you learn there.
No.
There's nothing, doesn't feel that important, nothing very surprising. No. It turns out you got the thing by running in while Corypheus was about to kill the Dragon Age Pope and yelling, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then he dropped his thing and you picked it up. And I guess that's the twist. The
important thing, I guess, is that you are not special in any way. You are a person who is at the right place at the right time. You're not a chosen one figure. You are just sort of an accident. You're not a figure of prophecy or anything like that. You are not the one who will bring balance to the Force here. You're just some dude.
I guess. I mean, we're still the most important person in the world already.
Right. Yeah.
We've already been built up into that. But it's also weird to have played half this game where I'm required to opine on whether I am the chosen one or deny it a dozen times before we get to here. And now it's, I guess, a revelation to me as a player. It shouldn't be a revelation to the character. I guess there's some magical amnesia involved around this.
Kind of.
To justify that.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of kind of shoe leather just to justify a faster start to this game.
It has I guess this is also sort of a restating of stuff that Corypheus says when you first meet him in Haven, just with a little bit more of an underlining. I don't have an enormous amount to say about this. It's not the best story mission, but it's still a story mission, and those are kind of just by nature of what they are, the highlights of the game. Solid enough. You get to choose whether Hawk or your warden die, and I kind of wish now I'd let my Hawk die, but I let.
Oh, yeah, I always have. It just feels like my choice has always been: do you let Hawk or Stroud take the loss? And Stroud is such an easy choice there that it's meaningless.
Right.
He does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I got to at least torture Varric with this. There's not going to be any good Varric content that comes out of Stroud.
Yeah, I finally let Logain die here, and I wish I'd kept him around. I wish now that my Logain was like the runner through all these games. I want Logain to live as long as possible. Screwed that up. Oh well. Okay, so that progresses the story again, and I guess the next thing is well, we have Morgan now with us, and there's Morgan business.
She could have a child, and she could not have a child.
Yeah. I actually had pretty satisfying stuff with Morgan, including direct correspondence with the warden from the original game. I was very excited. I got a letter from him, and an armor design that was actually quite useful. The best armor that I'm still wearing came from my original warden, who sends me a very vague letter. It's like, hey, I love what you're doing. I can't be part of it. I'm sorry. I'm doing a thing, but check this out. Here's some armor, which was nice of him, I thought. Uh, confirmed he's alive. Nice. That was exciting. I think this is the first time I confirmed that the Warden was alive in a Dragon Age Inquisition playthrough. So that was fun. And
mine
it's his
is
kid.
Not. No, all of my prior player characters are dead now. But yeah, Morgan's role in this actually, I like it quite a bit.
Good. I think it's kind of good.
I think the only thing that's missing is a little direct interaction with Liliana. They keep them on different floors of Skyhold and
they do pointedly
so forth. But yeah, which is fine. Like it's not like they were best buddies or anything. You could see them being like, "I got my own whole thing going on. I don't want you messing up with that, so I'm going to leave your thing alone." That's a believable dynamic, but I'd like to see them engage with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everybody, all of the supporting characters, all of your party members, and your Cullen and your Josephine have sort of character side quests that pop up throughout this stretch of the game. Most of them not very memorable.
Nope.
I would say there's really two of them that make an impression. And Dorian, I like Dorian's a bit because it is not, well, he gives you the one version of it, which is, hey, I found some like Venatori people, like track them down. So I'm going to mark your map in 4 different places and take me to go kill these Venatori guys. And Cassandra's got a version of that. Varric says, I've marked down 12 red lyrium deposits. I want you to take me to. Everybody's got their own like little fetch quest there.
Yeah.
And some of them are track down and kill quests. Unremarkable on a story level there. With the other thing though is that his estranged father will reach out to you and you can set up a meeting between them, and it's not really a gameplay centric dungeon crawl built around it. It's just a dramatic cutscene where you can encourage him to either reconcile with his father or break off ties more permanently. I guess they're already permanently broken, but you can encourage him to repair it or not, and he'll have a different sort of attitude about it, depending on what you choose. It's just interesting. It's just kind of almost the Dragon Age version of kitchen table drama.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, there's definitely it's, I was going to call it woke, which I mean without pejorative, but it's, it is a metaphor in the way that, like, I don't know, the X-Men, can kind of sometimes work as a metaphor for homosexuality. Like that's sort of what's going on there, right? I mean, or is it explicit in this?
Well, no, yeah, it's more explicit than that, because it's not like that his magic is the metaphor for homosexuality. The issue is
that he's gay.
He's gay.
He's actually gay.
His family wanted him to do an arranged marriage to.
There's no metaphor. They're just not into him being gay, and he's like, well, "Fuck you." That's
well, that's the part that comes there is that the father is like made his peace with him actually being gay. But he's like, but you still need to like do the marriage and have the kids for the sake of the noble house. Like it's
right.
It's not like, I don't want you to be happy, but it's the family business that we still want you to take over. And that is, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's not the deepest thing. It's basically confined to one scene and a little bit of unpacking afterwards if you want to go do your therapy session with him afterwards.
Well, this goes to Dorian as a character being one of the best in the game, I think. I love the vocal performance. And another thing that he gets to do, which is really interesting to me, is talk about Tevinter, which is kind of the, going into this game, sort of the undefined foreign power. We know that they're a bunch of crazy mages before Inquisition, and now we get to actually learn more about them and what they're about and what society is like and how they view themselves and all that stuff. I think is really fascinating. And when it comes to having conversations at Skyhold with your team, I think Dorian might be the best. There's a few other that are really good. I think this is the stuff I'm most interested in the game when it comes to just backstory that isn't necessarily meaningful to the narrative that we're playing right now, but just is cool to me as a Dragon Age fan, filling in the gaps and Doran is a good conveyor of that information too.
It is one of the Tevinter and the Kunari lands, I guess, are the big sort of sections of the map that are not.
Yeah,
we're hearing the most about. I mean, yeah, we haven't been to Navarra, I guess, but nobody really cares what's going on in Navarra or Vane. What's going on to Tevinter and Saharon, where they're fighting the Kunari, is kind of central to Dragon Age lore, and so yeah, there's still, even as we're exploring so much of the map of Southern Thedas, he is still our window into Northern Thedas, and it feels the most like Origins in a way. That where you're just hearing about things we have not encountered. I mean, you can still go quiz Varric about like what Dwarven lands are like, but also we've seen it. The more significant ones, I would say, are Iron Bowls is one of the more memorable ones, where you have to kind of choose between making an alliance with the Kunari nation, or to do that, it ultimately involves sacrificing Iron Bowl's whole crew, the Bowl's Chargers, or you can save them and then you don't get to the benefits of the Kunari alliance.
Mm-hmm.
I assume most people choose the Bowl's Chargers because they are like colorful characters that you've kind of met in person, and the Kunari alliance is very impersonal. I choose them just because I'm like, well, fuck the Kunari. I don't want to deal with their whole thing.
I've actually tried to be sort of globally minded and cognizant of the bigger picture. I think historically I have chosen to aid the Kunari and sacrifice the Chargers. This time around, I was like, there's no benefit to that. I'm just going to save the Chargers. And it turned out that was definitely the way to go. You don't really get much out of the Kunari. Not really. I don't know. Maybe you get some resources or some points or some shit like that. It doesn't matter. You want the narrative of...
You get alternate, probably like one war table mission that's different too. You know?
Yeah, shit like that. No, you want to keep the Chargers around for sure. And that's what I did this time. And I was like, well, why wasn't I always doing this? I do understand that if you...
just because I was like, I think that... the first time I think I was being a little defiant of... I think the game really wants me to love Iron Bowl, and I don't love him as much as possible. So the game doesn't think I'll do this because they think I like Iron Bowl too much. I'll show them. No, I don't care if Iron Bowl dislikes me. But yeah, it provided no benefits. And this time I'm trying to roleplay it more as, well, my elf has got a little bit of a chip on its shoulder about being under like human occupation and control and all that. And being under the rule of the Kunari sounds even worse. So I don't think she would be very friendly to the Kunari anyway. So I was like, screw that. I'll use the Bowl's Chargers.
I understand that if you pick the Kunari over the Chargers, Iron Bowl, if you take him with you in the final mission of Trespass, the DLC, he will turn on you.
I think there are multiple like ways that can happen, but I haven't played through Trespasser yet on this playthrough, so we'll...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went with the Chargers, so it's not an option for me.
I think it's harder to needle to thread to have him not turn on you in that one, but I'm not sure. We'll get to that next time. For now, I think say for today, the last thing we should talk about is the Black Wall.
Yeah.
Mission. I think this is one of the highlights of the game, actually, and really elevates the Black Wall character. It's to a sort of a party member type that I have not seen in 7 or 8 other RPGs. You know, that's
right.
Pretty rare these days. Like I have a context where, Iron Bull's this person. You know, like Sarah, she's this type of person. Even Solus, the kind of magic-y guy who's a little spacey, whatever. And Varric is an archetype to an extent too. I don't know that there's a Blackwall archetype though, because we find out here that he is not actually named Blackwall. He is a war criminal who was in the process of being recruited to the Grey Wardens by a warden named Blackwall when that guy was killed, and he Don Drapered his identity.
Yeah, he's right. He just did a pure Don Draper. Yeah. It's really cool. It's because it fills in a bit of a mystery, which is like all the wardens are getting called to the deep roads by their the taint. How come Blackwall isn't affected? It's interesting, and it's because he's not actually a warden.
And yeah, I guess it makes him a more interesting character. It also he becomes one of the prisoners that you judge from your throne, which is pretty great. I assume 95% of people just choose to have him remain a party member and work his dead off with the. But
he's a useful party member. Like that's the thing. Like he's actually one of the more. I guess maybe if you were a warrior, there would be some justification to trying it out, but. No, you kind of need this guy to tank, generally speaking. So
you have Cassandra does all the same stuff.
Sure. I mean, when it came to that part of the game, I was just like, yeah. Okay, what's it going to take to get you back into the exact position you have been in? I've been relying on you. Oh, you need forgiveness? Okay. Well, you're forgiven. I'm the Inquisitor. Is that enough? No, it's not. Okay, got to handle your feelings about this, which is all interesting stuff. But it's fun to kind of just be like. No, I'm not seriously considering punishing you. Beyond that at this point.
It does feel like it's a really big ask. I think you need to give a player character generally some pretty big rewards to consider losing a party member in one of these games. That's the most valuable asset of anything in these games.
Even just in a content level. Even just on like, I won't have this character to bounce off of or use, even if you don't need him in the game itself. You know, which you got Cassandra. It's just, there's less stuff for you to do now, and it's a hard choice to make. Yeah,
it is. It's always hard. He is telling you he's asking for death at this point. He wants to be punished, but like I say, it's good stuff. It's not stuff I've done in a bunch of other RPGs, so I'll definitely applaud it on that level. It makes Blackwall a more interesting character. You know, that'll be a good episode of the show.
Yeah.
Be an Emmy submission episode for sure, marked out in advance for that. Whoever's cast as Blackwall.
Well, and we will talk about that next time, where we will finish the narrative of Inquisition here, which we're very close to, and then take on the DLC, which is not too much for this game. I mean, there's hours to it, that's for damn sure, but there's not much to it really. Beyond
the Trespasser has got quite a bit of that's sort of a whole coda.
Yeah. That's important. Probably should just be part of the main game, really. And then, of course, we'll return to our favorite subject of how do you adapt this to television? How do you turn Inquisition into something? Or I don't know, maybe we'll decide it should be a movie. We won't. It's for TV. But
it's definitely for TV.
Yeah. Even still, I think it's going to be a tough one, and I'm kind of thinking about it a lot. So that'll be our next Inquisition episode, our last one.
It's the hardest question of, can this be done?
Yeah.
Like, that was easy for me to answer with Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect. And even the earlier Dragon Age games, like, I can easily see this. And this, there's a lot more squinting involved.
Very much.
How this works.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so that'll be the next one on the Omnibus. Thank you for listening.